Net Wealth Investments Limited is licensed to provide general advice. Our podcasts are not tailored to any one financial situation and may contain views of our presenters which may not align with Net Wealth's. The guests' organisation and Net Wealth have an arrangement for their financial products to be available for investment through the Net Wealth platforms, and Net Wealth may receive fees from the guest. More information about Net Wealth can be found on our website, including our financial services guide and disclosure documents. Please seek professional advice before acting.
Hi, I'm Matt Heiner, Joint Managing Director of Net Wealth, and welcome to Between Meetings. In this podcast series, I chat to industry professionals and thought leaders on what made their career successful and the opportunities and challenges they see on a wide range of topics as they relate to the delivery of advice and financial services. I hope you enjoy their unique insights. In this episode, I chat to Jonathan Christie, Managing Director of Oriana Financial Services, about how he began his financial career and why he set up Oriana 4 years ago. We discuss how to build culture and relationships through virtual environments, the importance of staff retention and consistency, and the downside of too much flexibility. Jonathan provides valuable insights into the trends he sees in the industry, including the importance of tailored investment solutions and investment governance, as well as the increase in industry consolidation. As always, I hope you enjoy the episode. John, welcome to the show.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity.
Unfortunately, as with many of my conversations of late, we haven't actually had a chance to catch up in person for quite some time.
I think we've had about 3 false starts. I think you're meant to be presenting at our conference 2 years ago, last year, just the end of January gone, but it's all been pushed back again, hasn't it? So,
it has.
Unfortunately.
We'll get there, I'm sure. But great to have you on the show, and thanks for joining us today. Now, John, you've been around in the industry for quite some time, but may not be well known to that many of our listeners. It'd be great just to get a little bit of your history. It is quite varied, particularly given that your first job was actually in a pub.
Yeah, that's right. I'm from a family of publicans, right? So back in Scotland, my granddad used to run pubs, and I think that's where I got my ambitious nature to talk to people. You're always talking to people in pubs in Scotland. But I came to Australia in 2002, I think, and started working at the MLC back in the day. First job in Australia, and actually worked there with the NAB MLC merger up until 2016 in numerous roles. I was in a product role for a while, and then I was in distribution and some sort of practice development roles under people like Tom Redcliffe and James B. Greg Miller. And then Angie Mentis actually picked me up and put me into the NAB private business, which was an amazing experience under her watch. And I think, working with experienced professionals in financial services like her really sort of gave me some insight that I didn't have before. I even ran a bit of a banking team at NAB Private for a while. And then with the JB Weir NAB merger back in 2016, it was, I think, we saw that transition, and then ended up leaving NAB post that because I think it was just time for me to move on and do something else. So yeah, a fairly institutional background in Australia, but always in the sort of financial advice sector. And I think that's sort of where I enjoy playing because, dealing with advisors I find enjoyable and always have done. Yeah.
One of the questions I always enjoy asking is why financial services? You started your career in the pub talking to people, yeah. But it's a stretch to then end up doing many of the roles that you have done.
Well, you go to university, don't you? You start in these jobs, you go to university, you're trying to work out what you're doing, right? And I think, when I was younger, you never really got educated on what you're going to do with your degree. You just did a degree. And I was actually an engineer by trade. So, mechanical engineer with a bit of business lobbed in just to make it feel diversified. And so then you go down a path of just trying to work out, well, where do you fit in? And I think that's for your first few years in any career is a learning journey. And I started in pharmaceuticals and then moved into financial services in London, as you do. And I think that sort of teed me up I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the people. And the institutions I was working for then were quite exciting. So, you land in Australia, you got to select your opportunities. And right then, financial advice, as it is still today, was a complicated, big industry that people were trying to work out. But at the heart of that were just good people. And I think from my back in the day when I was young working in pubs to today working with professionals, the most important thing is working with good people you can have a great conversation with. And I think that's how I managed to find out that I really enjoy this sector. And that continues today. We've got some really great clients and really great people we work with, including yourselves.
Well, one of the issues that the industry is facing at the moment is obviously reducing advisor numbers and
Yep.
not many new people coming into the industry, whether that's out of the universities or through a career
Yeah.
change. How do you typically, what would you say to someone considering joining the industry now to convince them to come in?
Well, just on that point, right? It's sad that we've offshored thousands and thousands of roles in this sector because no one wants to come into it. Not only advisors, but paraplanners, CSMs. It's not just about advisors; it's about all roles in our industry. And um, I think what you've got to really lay out to people is what is the financial advice sector trying to do? Well, it's trying to help people, right? First and foremost. And I think people still struggle to articulate the value of advice, particularly to that young generation looking for a career choice. So I think there's got to be some time spent on both sides of potential candidates and employers like ourselves to really have great conversations with not only potential advisors, but power planners, CSMs, or anyone who wants to work in this industry, and show them that there's actually a long-term career. Because, particularly younger graduates today, it's a very short-term mentality. And you've got to show them the opportunity of a long-term, sustainable, enduring career in this industry, which there is one. And I just don't think we've done that very well. And I include ourselves in that. And that's starting, right? So we've now got 6 professional year advisors in our network, which is awesome. And, it's a different conversation to the conversations I was having with advisors 15 years ago. But clients are still at the heart of it. And I think if you can really help people understand that this industry is geared up to help Australians, then that's where you need to start. And I think we've got to do a better job of it. Hope that answers your question. But yeah, I'm pretty passionate about that. It's scary that we've only got, I think the last numbers I saw were 12,000 potentially advisors now in Australia. If you strip out BDMs and all that sort of stuff, and myself included, it's a scary number. I think we've got to do more to improve that.
And as a number of my guests have actually highlighted on a regular basis, there's a real demand issue. So people are wanting advice, or more people are wanting advice than ever before. And increasingly, there's no one to actually serve them. So what a better time for someone to actually come into a new industry.
And I think that's right. And it's not only that, people want advice, but they still don't know what that means either. Gone are the days that we as Oriana's, obviously we do a number of things. I'm sure we'll get into that, but we are a strategy and investment led licensee. And I think most of the advisors in our network talk about strategy and planning over investing because that's where it starts. Financial planning is a specialist skill. It's not just about investing money. And I think clients even don't understand the correlation between their issues, objectives, goals, problems, and what the strategies that advisors can provide. And I think we've got to, again, continue to do a better job in educating people, not only who are looking for advice, but what that means when they get to that conversation. Because as we know, anyone going through a financial advice conversation walks out, I believe, if it's a good one, knowing a lot more than they came in and understanding how advisors can help them.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, and certainly agree. And we see it through our research all the time. There is still a misconception that financial advice or financial planning is about the investment return.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think as an industry, we need to continue to do a better job of explaining to consumers that that's actually, whilst an important part of it, it can either be outsourced or it's very much the last part of the process.
Yeah, and I think that's right. And I think, where we sort of play in the clients that we deal with, a lot of time is spent just listening and understanding structures, goals, timeframes, implications, different scenarios, contingency plans. It's not just about numbers and investing, even though that's still a critical component. But I think as this industry matures and becomes, I think it is a profession. I don't think it's becoming a profession. We've just got to have our ability to communicate that better to clients, and I think we're starting to do that. I think I'm starting to see a shift in how we are engaging and how we're talking about our industry, and the narrative you see in the media now is starting to change. I think.
We'll come back to what you're doing at Oriana in a moment,
Yeah.
but you're not off the hook yet. I'm keen to know a little bit more about your sporting career.
Well, mate, that's I used to play hockey. Well, I still do. Actually, I started playing hockey when I was 14. Scotland doesn't have many hockey players, so I managed to get picked for my country over time, which is a great achievement. I'm very proud of it. But silly enough, when I came to Australia, I actually gave up. 2002, I stopped playing. And I don't know why, actually. I think kids and just new country and a whole bunch of stuff. But, I played at a very high level for a long time. And what that provided me was not only an opportunity to play for my country, but I love being in part of teams. Team sports for me are just a great thing. And I just think the learnings and the team building and the understanding of others that comes through that is just fantastic. So I actually gave up for some reason, and I still reflect back now on why, and I'm sure there's many different reasons. But for my sins, I actually kicked off my hockey career again 3 years ago during COVID, and still playing with 25-year-olds at the final age of 45. So I've still got it in me. I don't know how long that's going to last, though. But it's just picking up a hockey stick for me again is one of my passions, and it's great to see the game. It's like our industry. I stopped playing for 10, 12 years, and I came back. The rules had changed. The game had changed. People were fitter, faster. And I think it's like our industry. If you look back 12 years, things change, and you've got to adapt to that. So instead of me getting fitter now, I just do more yoga so I don't break. But I think it's an important narrative, right? I think everything in the last 12, 15 years is changing, and we've got to find better ways as teams, as individuals, to adapt to that. And I think that's, if I draw on my hockey career and look at financial planning, there's probably lots of similarities around what's changed in that sort of discipline.
Yeah, and that was really, I guess, where I was going with that. The parallels between sport and business are often, certainly very important as people evolve into leadership positions. Is that sort of teamwork aspect the bit that you would think has flowed into what you do the most today?
Oh, look, you have to ask my team that. We're a small team of 12 in Australia, but how I think about it is people like to be a part of something generally, and but you've still got to give them the right freedoms and barriers, right? And this is not rocket science. I'm sure you do the same with your teams. But particularly when you're employing experienced people, they need autonomy and decision making, right? And it's just like a coach with their players. They've got to have the freedom on the pitch to do their job and be guided off of it. And sometimes there's a hard conversation in between. So I think if I look back at, even my when I was a player and my coach, and how he treated me, it could be firm and fair, but there was a definite ability to do what you had to do to get the outcomes you wanted to achieve. And I think I sort of apply that. I hope I apply that with the team I have today. They seem pretty happy. So, and I think that's, it's like, we were doing some research recently, and I know you probably know the same. This year, in the short term in our industry, the number one game is people. If you do not retain your teams as an advisor, as a licensee, as a product provider, we're going to be in trouble. And because consistency and experience is critical, and you can't keep turning over staff. So your leadership style and your coaching style, however you want to call it, has got to make people happy, make people enjoy their work, but they also need to get value from that interaction. And I think I do a fairly good job at that. I think so. And our team, we've got other leaders in our team as well. And I think that, we all try and aspire to that. Yeah.
To draw on perhaps one last analogy there, I think it's fair to say the rules of the game of being a leader and a leader of any size team over the last couple of years have changed significantly. The way that people want to work, where they want to work, how they want to work is completely different to what it was 2 years ago. How are you adapting to that in your environment?
So if I look at, I'll talk to two fronts. I'll talk about our business and I'll talk about our clients. So I think we started a business 4 years ago. And so when you start something, you want to make sure your sort of game plan is set. So we've never really had this 5-day-a-week working mentality. Sorry, working from an office mentality. We work obviously 5 days a week, but it's, we've got team all across the country. I've got a head of operations sits out in Orange, Angela, and, we've worked together for 20 years. And she, to find that right individual, you've got to go where the great people are and allow them to operate in the way they need to operate. So we are lucky that we've never really set that. We don't have to change that mindset, which is really good. So we've got people working from home. We've got people working in the office. We've got people working in different geographies and different time zones. And my rule is, if if we're communicating and delivering the work we need to do, and we're providing opportunities to come together at the right time, then that's fine. And I think as long as it doesn't impact those things and people are continue to be happy and engaged and the work is done to the great quality that it is today, then we can continue that. I think the difference is when you have clients like an advice business who has clients, it's a different lens. So for the last 2 years, obviously clients have been comfortable sitting at home on a Zoom call like we're doing today. But I think that might change. And I think, you've got to be a bit more flexible to client need, because some people need to come in and some people won't. And that's going to really dictate how you're structured as a business and some of the rules and structures you have in place for your team. So I think as a licensee and as an Oriana business, we're really comfortable where we're at. But as soon as you start throwing clients into that equation, it can become more complicated. So just being clear, I actually had a conversation with an advisor the other day, and they said, if you actually give too much flexibility, it can become confusing because family structures can't operate also. If you say come in when you want, and the husband has also got a similar request from their employer, actually planning that as a family unit and as a business is very difficult. So some structure is critical.
One of the challenges, and your situation may be a little bit different because you mentioned you'd worked with people like Angela for 20 years, so you already had a good working relationship, is how do you build culture via Zoom? So if you think about that as it relates to your immediate staff, but also maybe to those in your network.
I think it's the word culture can be it can be quite subjective, right? But build relationships. I think you're limited to what you can do, in my view. You're limited, but you've got to put your best foot forward. So maintaining and enhancing relationships is what you can do virtually, I believe. That will obviously improve culture, but you still got to have a balance. I think we are definitely zoomed out as a network. So I think we've now got to find the right avenues to educate and build relationships by Zoom virtually, but really be clear about the value of bringing people together at the right times. Because advisors, obviously, we're running very busy businesses at the minute. People are busy, and so giving up time is a luxury. And so bringing people together in a face-to-face environment has got to be clearly articulated, the value of why we're doing it, not just doing it. I think 5 years ago, there's a lot more just getting together for together's sake. I think, you've got to be really clear on the benefit to businesses and your staff, because I think people have got a very efficient business model now, balancing face-to-face in that virtual environment.
Before we bring you the second part of this chat, a little bit about who we are. Celebrating over 20 years, NetWealth is an ASX-listed company that has been rated number 1 for overall user satisfaction by Investment Trends for 8 consecutive years in their Planner Technology Report. As the financial advice landscape changes, it's important to embrace new technology to enhance the way you run your business. With change comes your chance to innovate, explore new perspectives, and realize new efficiencies. NetWealth is here to support you on this journey by providing you market-leading technology, excellent customer support, and expertise to help your business thrive. Contact us today or visit the NetWealth website to learn more and get the PDS, which should be read before making a decision to purchase a NetWealth product. Products issued by NetWealth Investments Limited.
John, we've spent a bit of time talking about your personal journey, and it'd be a great opportunity now to hear about what you're doing now at Oriana and why you decided to start another licensee.
Yeah, so thanks. Look, I think it's for me, it's more than a licensee, and we'll probably touch on that. But if I look back at why, back at NAB when I was running NAB Private Wealth, the advice side, I saw the writing on the wall with obviously banks getting out of advice, and we merged with JB Were, which is the right thing to do at the time. And with a lot of advisors starting to show rumblings of wanting something different outside of institutions, and obviously through networks and relationships, you want to make sure you can maximize those in time. But instead, I decided to leave NAB and build a house for a year, and I sort of contemplated life and did that usual journey. And Luke Moore, who I used to work with back in my NAB days, NAB actually sold a part of their NAB Wealth business to Oriana up in Hong Kong. So we have an expat business up there. It's been around for about 20 years. And Luke Moore went with the transaction. And back in 2018, we started talking, and we talked about myself coming back into the business and thinking about Australian operations. And at the time, as I said, we had a lot of good relationships and a lot of advisors looking to leave licensees and not necessarily be self-licensed. So we worked with a couple of Godfrey Pembroke advisors and looked at the opportunity of building our own licensee. Now, at that time, the Royal Commission was on, lots of activity, lots of regulation change. Some people would probably think I was mad for starting it up. But for me, it was, an opportunity that if you want to build your own business, work with great people that you know, and in an industry that you love, then you've got to take those opportunities, regardless of the environment. And so in 2018, we started a licensee with one client. And today we're now at 33 clients. And I talk about clients being a practice, about 90, 95 advisors. And it's great when you build something from scratch. You don't have to worry about legacy. And I think that was something that was really exciting. So, building a licensee back then was the right thing for us because there was an opportunity to build a really sustainable business. And a lot of business people talk about licensees being unprofitable or high risk. I think those days are gone because what we're trying to do is build a great network of great practices that operate with a lot of consistency and a lot of similarities to deliver the best outcomes for clients. And I think if we've set ourselves up to do that, how we operate is we work with experienced professionals to deliver operational efficiencies through common sense compliance. That's my vision and my aspiration. And so we don't work with startups or, mortgage brokers. It's not saying there's anything wrong with that, but we're really clear on the clients that we work with in terms of advisors. And that's really exciting because we can actually help them. And I think, and if we can help advisors, then we can help clients. And I think that's where I've always wanted to be, is helping advisors and clients.
So coming into the market, it sounds like you were quite clear on that. And the value proposition really is around that experienced advisor, reducing complexity and compliance. In many ways, easier said than done. How have you actually gone about doing that? Because if you talk to advisors, the biggest pain point still is compliance and just the continuing regulatory environment that we're in. Were there certain software solutions or people or processes that you brought with you that enabled that?
Well, the first thing is I'll use the word lightly. We were a clean license. What I mean by that is it was a new license. Okay. So the first point is our starting position wasn't fixing the past. It was looking forward to the future. So that's a benefit, right? So how we think about building that advice, I call it advice framework, if you want to call it, you can start to think about where you want to play and who you want to partner with to deliver that. Now, I'm not saying what we've built is rocket science, but it's simple and clean, because I think advisors, where we're coming from in the institutional world, was the goalposts change, band-aids get put in, technology is always moving around. There was no consistency. And the first thing that advisors want is limited change or good change. And I think what we were able to do was we're using X-Plan and all the common things, but where we started was X-Plan at the core, build around it with capability. We don't do internal compliance. We leverage experts externally. And then we partner with others around those two components to build out process, efficiency, technology. But at the center of everything we do, every practice currently is in that X-Plan environment. And that's important, even though that's got challenges. It's important for us to enable that in the right way. And if we get good compliance advice and input that I can challenge, and this is the key thing, I don't have internal compliance people because they're my compliance views. I can challenge external compliance views to my risk settings. And I think with those two things at the core, you can build something that works and is efficient from an advice delivery perspective. And then you can start fixing the problems of this industry, which there's still many because it's a complex industry, with other processes, specialists, technology, and capability. And we can talk to that. But you've got to start with that core, which is consistent, in my view.
You've mentioned additional capability a few times now. You've invested heavily into the investment research arm of the business. Do you want to just talk a little bit about what that is and why you've decided to go down that path?
Yeah, so look, I think look, I sit back and look at financial advice businesses, and I talk about governance, right? And it's probably the most boring word ever, but governance is what does governance means? It means good process, good skill sets, managing risk, repeatable, consistent, all those great words, right? So if I look at a financial advice business, some of the components are in the governance sense is good investment management, great process, and great compliance. But compliance is a part of process. So if we did a lot of work early on with practices in the investment governance space. And the reason for that is we were lucky enough to have a great capability in the Oriana Hong Kong team that currently exists today. And that starts with good people, right? And good process. And so what we've been able to do is take how we've managed money internally from a repeatable process perspective and good capability perspective and said to businesses, well, how are you managing that? And as a licensee, I go, well, I don't really, I'm indifferent about how you're doing it, but I want to know you've got great investment governance in your business. And if you need help with that, we can help you. And so having a team that can go into practices to understand and advise them on asset allocation, research, the process of investing, investment committees, how they're implementing portfolios, it has got to be a great value add because it goes to the heart of efficiency, the ability to scale up, and at the same time deliver high quality outcomes to clients. And if businesses aren't looking at how their investment governance or haven't done that, then it's the first thing you've got to do because it impacts everything: people, process, technology, everything in your business. And I think that's sort of where we come from. So it's not necessarily about products, it's about that governance piece. And the outcome of that is how are you doing it and how are you implementing it, even to the point of which platform are you using. Yeah. So if you've not had that conversation as a business, then it's going to be really hard to gain efficiencies in your business because that is core to everything you do. Does that make sense?
It does. Having once owned a national licensee and also a national financial planning business, the investment philosophy was often number one item that was debated rigorously, and it was very hard to actually get two practices to agree, let alone a whole licensee. When you talk about consistency and delivery, is it about pushing everyone down into the same model so that everyone has the same asset allocation and same investment beliefs, or is it more around providing a flexible framework that they can work within?
I'm all about flexible free. There's principles. Firstly, there's principles you need to follow as professionals, and if a certain methodology or an approach resonates with you, then that's fine. So we got to have flexibility in the offering to client. Now we've got in our business two models. Obviously, we partner with businesses from an equity perspective. So we have an Oriana private business, and we've got licensee clients who are branded themselves. So in our Oriana private business, there's a lot more consistency around asset allocation views and investment approach, which is appropriate because we want to make sure that the communication and marketing to client is consistent. And not to say that the products are SMAs versus MDAs versus funds. It's about a philosophy and how from bespoke portfolios to outsourced solutions, the narrative and the process is similar. And on the licensee side, it's providing a framework for businesses to build their own philosophies, but we as a network, as a licensee, through our investment team can consult to them and help them build that out themselves. And I think, mandating how investments are made is a difficult place to be in this industry, but good investment approach and investment governance and process is critical. So you can apply that to any sort of business moving forward. And we do both, right? So we build portfolios for internal teams, and we consult and advise our licensee businesses to have good, rigorous process in their business around managing money.
And what are the big investment trends or themes that you're seeing emerging at the moment from the practice and ultimately from the end customers?
Oh, look, We probably as a network advise clients in I hate the word high net wealth. It's not that. It's more affluent space. That's sort of where our bread and butter is. And so what do you see there is pre-retiree, retiree clients. There's segments that want to conserve their money. There's clients who are wholesale in nature and looking for different ideas. Um, so the trends that we're starting to see is how do businesses scale up and provide great outcomes to clients, and what's the investment solution for different segments. So you're definitely starting to see simpler segments of advice being outsourced. Absolutely. SMAs, multi-manager funds back in that space again, because scaling up and efficiency is critical, all the way up to clients that are looking for more bespoke solutions, wholesale products, different types of investments. So I think you have to take a segmentation approach to investing. But we're definitely seeing themes, and where businesses are looking to tackle different solutions or problems in the business through simplicity to complexity. More practices are segmenting by, I'd say, probably 2 or 3 segments in their business, and building out 2 or 3 different investment propositions for those clients, from SMAs up to the bespoke portfolios. That's what we're seeing.
Excellent. And we're unfortunately about to run out of time, but before you go, if you just take a moment to crystal ball with me, where do you see the industry in 5 years, and how is Oriana going to respond to that?
So look, so where we're at the minute, so we go as a licensee, as an equity partner in businesses, which we are doing more of, and as a provider of good investment governance to businesses, we see the trends of more consolidation in the industry, so advisors merging. As a licensee and an owner of businesses, we're looking to invest in those businesses moving forward. So we're doing a lot of work in that succession, joint venture relationship discussions. So we're not trying to buy up every business out there, but we're certainly looking to invest in that part of the value chain. So we've already done a couple of transactions, and we can definitely see more efficiencies through technology and investment management. So I don't think technology solutions have solved the advice delivery game, but there's definitely a trend where technology is solving problems within the advice process. And I think you'll see that continuing to a point where I believe something in the future, 2 to 3 years, will eventually crack that financial planning process piece, which is a technology solution to solve that problem for advisors, that one size fits all. It's not there yet, but there's certainly players coming into the market. However, if you go back to 11,000, 12,000 advisors in this sector, there's a lot of technology providers out there they're all fighting for the same client. Okay. So there's going to be, I believe, a lot of consolidation in the tech space from my perspective. And so to move and to watch out where that space is going, we've got to be, I think, I'm not a first mover. I like to see where things lay out, but I think in the next 18 months, the financial planning tech space will become consolidated, and I think better solutions will come to market because of that. So I think, yeah, there's going to be, it's pretty exciting. From a legislative perspective, we just hope there's just no change. I think we've done all the change we can do. Because when you get regulation being simplified, that's still change. And I think change is work, and change is complex. So we're just hoping for the next 18 months of, at a minimum, no change, because businesses are busy. They're seeing more clients, and we can't disrupt them and basically having this opportunity to really take advantage of that. Yeah. So there's quite a bit in there, mate.
With that in mind, though, and final comments perhaps, there's a potential change of government ahead of us, and a new advice review looking to simplify advice, which, as you say, will require change. Are there any aspects that you're hoping they really focus on and solve?
Look, well, the thing is, right, so if you want to get better outcomes to clients, start with clients, then you've got to break down the process to get that to clients. If you can simplify the advice process, the compliance, and the documents, then you can actually build technology solutions that will work. Okay, so I know that we're actually engaging directly with Treasury through a licensee forum that I'm on, and it's great to see that Treasury are actually wanting to understand this more. And they're actually going out to some businesses in that forum to understand where are the issues, show us directly what are the impacts. So it's not about an SOA for me. It's not about a fact find document. It's actually about stripping all components back to something where advice can be delivered really efficiently, that technology providers, including platforms like yourself, can build solutions around that to help advisors get advice to clients quicker. It's taking 4 to 8 weeks to get an advice document to clients. It's just not acceptable. And so if regulation and Treasury can come in and start to strip things back, not necessarily reform things 100%, I think that's a start, because I think technology players particularly will enable that change in a better way. So that's what I'm hoping. And, that's just reducing process steps, documentation, tick boxes and requirements. It's not difficult.
John, that's going to be a great place to finish. Thank you as always. Great to catch up. Hopefully we can do this properly over a beer next time. And
that'll be good. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Keep up the great work. Thanks for listening to this episode of Between Meetings. For more episodes and to subscribe to our series, visit the NetWealth website, iTunes, Spotify, or your favourite listening service. And if you want to contact me or engage or discuss any of the topics raised, please find me on LinkedIn or Twitter or send me a private message. We hope you can tune into the next episode.